amazing panelists. I think I'm just going to be doing a lot of listening, be doing a lot of the talking, and driving the conversation and discussions around today's topic. Um, the topic she called me woman, the war over gender. I mean, it's something that is thought provoking. It's something that brings about a lot of questions, that probably needs a lot of answers. And so today we'll be talking a lot about what is gender? Is there even a war over gender? I mean, people have asked me, is there a war over gender? Are we really fighting anything when it comes to gender? What are some of the gender, inequalities or stereotypes or biases that women literally have to face in our society today? What are we doing about it? What should we do about it? These are some of the things that we are going to be talking about today. And I can't wait to learn from all of our amazing panelists who will be joining us in this conversation. Okay, great. Thank you. So we'll be starting now. Vincent is currently at the airport and is having issues with network, but he will keep trying to join. Pamela as well. So I think we will just continue with the session, and hopefully before the end of the session, they'll be able to join us. So my first question will be going to Uyai, and basically it has to do with what are some of the issues that are currently facing women today, particularly as it relates to their gender.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Okay, so the question is, what are some of the issues, some of the issues that women and girls are facing today based on their gender? So in terms of, gender inequality, gender discrimination, gender bias, gender stereotype, what are some of those issues, that women are currently facing today?
Oh, okay. So off the top of my head, there's the horrible rape culture that we're constantly fighting, constantly dealing with. There is workplace discrimination, unequal payments, it's child marriage still, which is unbelievable that we're still talking about child marriage. Um, and sexual harassment, sexual assault, all of these things we're still talking about, still dealing with.
Yeah, for responding to that. As you said, it's quite sad that some of these issues are still happening today. I mean, we're still talking about female genital mutilation, we're still talking about child marriage,
Yes.
and these are some of the things that are deeply rooted in culture. And when you ask why some of these things continue to happen, the justification that we give most times is that it's our culture, it's our way of life, it's how it's supposed to be done. So following up on that question, I just wanted to ask, we know you're a filmmaker and you work in the movie
Yeah.
industry. So I just wanted to ask, how can we use, film to try to correct some of these issues, to try to create awareness, to try to orientate people in the society to understand the challenges, the consequences, harmful effects of some of these things, that are being done to women just because they are female. How can we use the movie? How can we use films to drive home that message, to make that change happen?
Yeah, that's a very important question, and it's very important for us to talk about this, considering that film and these stories from history have been the ones that have shaped the way that we think, the way that many people think about women in Nigeria in particular, the kinds of films that we grew up watching, and that's seriously shaped how we think about women, how we treat women, right? So, again, because this is what caused the issue, that is, only makes sense that that's the way that we're going to change it, right? And so, what do we need? We need more people telling alternative stories, right? We need more women actually in this industry because I don't know that men can effectively tell the story,
Yeah.
telling the stories for so long. And so, of course, the people who tell the story are the ones who have. That's what we want. We want more women in this industry. We want more women to start to tell the story, tell alternative stories about women that they know, women that they can relate to. Because many times when I watch Nigerian films, I don't know those women. And I don't know that many people know those women. Like, I personally want to tell stories about like my friends, women that I know, women who are thriving, right? So I think that more women need to be telling these stories, um, need to be writing these stories into film. And it's easy to say that, right? But because many of the media houses, many of the production companies are owned by men, and so there's still that struggle. There's still that struggle of who is going to tell your story, right? You've written the story, who is going to fund it? Because many writers, many storytellers don't have the power and don't have the money to fund it. So it's very easy to say that more women should tell the stories. I don't even know that we can start the conversation from there because we have to actually start from giving power to women, in terms of money, like in terms of inequality in payment and all of that business. So we have to start from there before we can now think about women telling the stories. But you can't tell the stories if you can't fund it, you can't afford to tell the stories, and that's where the conversation should start from. That's what we should start thinking about first before we start thinking of how films are going to change the narrative. Because yes, films will definitely change the narrative. Poetry, literature, all these things will change the stories, but at the root of it is a power
Thank you so
imbalance
much. Yeah.
that we need to
So
deal with.
yes, absolutely. We need to empower women to be able to tell their stories. And then at the same time, we also need women to occupy more of these spaces in such a way that they are able to ensure that, when these stories are actually developed
Hmm.
or are ready to be shared, we actually have the platforms to be able to get these stories out there. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I'll just move to Chisom now. So hi Chisom.
Hello,
Okay, Chisom, I can't hear you.
can you hear me?
Okay, just
Can
one
you hear me
minute.
now?
Okay, can you talk now? I couldn't hear you before.
Can you hear me
Oh,
now?
awesome. I can hear you now. Great. Yes. So, we know you run the Conversation Cafe and, still talking
Yes,
about stories and the importance of stories and the power that storytelling has in trying to change these narratives. Can you tell us a little bit about
yes.
what the Conversation Cafe is about and how the Conversation Cafe is used as a tool to, change some of these negative narratives, especially when it comes to do with, gender and the war over gender?
All right, thank you very much for your question. So, the Conversation Cafe is an initiative that creates safe spaces for alternative education, conversations, and activities that engender societal development and impact, especially in focal areas related to um, girls, girls in particular, girls in undeserving communities. So we have projects where we run for girls, particularly focused on period poverty, child abuse, rape, amongst these other issues. And what we've done with our platform is create multiple streams of initiatives to keep these conversations going, as well as create preferable solutions that could cut down on the issues that we're currently talking about. So we've produced a movie titled Ha, which is a short film that spotlights on period poverty that still takes place here in Nigeria and as well as other developing countries as well. Child marriage, which is still a thing as well. When Uya said we're still talking about child marriage, I just smiled. I'm like, girl, yes, we're still talking about child marriage, in this age and time. So, yes, period poverty, child marriage, sexual harassment, which is such a thing that we face in every ramification in work, in schools, amongst other things. Yeah, and then we run a sanitary bank where we provide femcare kits for girls in undeserving communities. And these are the things we've been able to do with the Conversation Cafe. So we're going to keep fostering conversations because actions kickstarts with a conversation. They happen because you've thought about it in your head, you've spoken about it, you've conversed with someone about it. So that's what we do.
Thank you so much, Chisop, and well done. You're doing an amazing work. And just talking about sexual harassment, I mean, the movie Citation really drove a lot of, awareness, sensitization, and even conversations, around sexual harassment, particularly in tertiary institutions. And that just shows the power of, telling stories, women actually telling stories, telling their own stories, right? And having to own those stories and use them to drive conversations and use them to begin to change some of these, negative and harmful narratives when it comes to gender and women. So I would move now to Pamela. Pamela is an activist, a Nigerian activist, and I would like for you to share. Hi, Pamela. Can you hear us? Okay, we've lost Pamela again. So I think I'll just. Um, so talking about the movie industry, right? The movie industry is a sector that really has a lot of potential to be able to drive positive conversations, particularly as it relates to gender. But then my question is this: what are some of the challenges that you would say, are currently being faced in trying to make that happen? So when women are trying to tell their stories or women are trying to get their voices out there, what are some of the challenges, that you would filmmaker that you're currently facing, and what solutions would you prefer to some of these challenges that are being faced?
So the first one that comes to mind is sexual harassment. And I talk about this so much because this is my constant experience in this industry, right? And many times after meetings with men, after we've had conversations about the films we're going to make, and it moves on to sexual harassment, I leave there feeling very small, right? Because maybe before my meeting, I've seen other men walk into walk in to meet with this person or whatever. And I know that these men are not sexually harassed, they're probably taken seriously, right? But constantly, this is constantly my experience because it's such a male saturated industry. And so you as a woman have to work with these men, right? And so that's constantly the problem. How can these men take the women more seriously? These men have stories to tell, right? Have something to say. And they reduce it down to when are we going to shag? And if this shagging is going to now lead to us making this film, because you get, and so it's not just with
Yeah.
female producers or female directors. Same thing happens with female actors, right? It's similar to sex for grades. Are you going to have sex
Yeah.
to get this role? Are you going? So that's such a problem, right? Because, but how can we begin to think outside of this? How can we begin to solve this problem? Again, is really down to power. Is really down to more women having power and more women creating seats on the table for other women. Like the women who have been able to create new tables or somehow being invited to sit at this table to create space for other women. And these conversations are so important because men need to be educated. Everyone needs to be educated, right, about taking women seriously, understanding that there's a job to be done, understanding that the lewd comments, the rude remarks are sexual harassment, and women don't want to feel like that. Women don't want to feel like they're working with this person who is not thinking about their minds, not thinking about the brains. They're thinking about your body. They're thinking about is so belittling,
Yeah.
right? Every time you walk out of that room, you feel so small. Like with all my sense as I put into this place, with everything that I was saying, thinking that I was making sense, this person in front of me is thinking about other things. So yeah, so I
Hmm.
with women who have gotten there need to create space for other women because nobody can do it alone. Nobody can do it by themselves.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and yes, nobody can do it alone. I can't do it alone. Chisom can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. And then that's why there's the power in collective. The power is
Yeah.
more women coming together, working together, driving these conversations, and ensuring that as we begin to enter into certain spaces, we also create spaces for other women, to come join us.
Absolutely.
I say that, yes, I say one problem that affects one woman actually affects every woman. That's the way I look at it. So if one person is going through child marriage, I am going through child marriage. If one person is being sexually harassed, I am also being sexually harassed. The moment you begin to look at these issues as, a collective, something affecting everybody, right? And not just until when it literally happens to you. I think that's when we can begin to really do things to make a change happen. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing that with us, and as you said, preferring those solutions, because I'm a solution-oriented person. The truth is, the problems are a lot, but the most important thing is we begin to look at what the solutions are and see how we can begin to work towards them. All right, so Pamela, thank you for joining us. We are glad to have you here. Can you hear me? Can you hear us? Hi, Pamela.
I can hear you, but it's very, there's a lot of static. And I don't know why my camera isn't coming on, but I'm here anyway, so.
Okay. Have you tried like putting on your video icon, like touching the video icon?
But it's fine, we
Okay.
can just
Okay.
talk.
Yeah, I think it's okay. But would have loved to see your face. But anyway, so you're a Nigerian activist and
Oh,
you're doing amazing work, especially when it has to do with, this war and this fight over gender. And so, as an activist, I would like for you to just share with us what you're doing exactly in terms of this war over gender. But most importantly, what can we do differently as activists in our current work? Because over time we keep on doing certain things, right, and we expect certain results. But from your experience, what do you think we should be doing differently as activists for us to win this war over gender?
well, describe, I don't describe myself
I
as
being
an
said,
actor. Think of my, can you hear me?
yes, we can. Yes,
I
Pamela,
was
you
saying,
can go ahead.
describe myself as an actor, but I think of myself um, as uh, advocate the right well-being of people in Nigeria. And over the years, I've sort of evolved in the way that, so um, I've gone from speaking up. I've moved from that to writing, blogging, and then I started working as a cleaner, and then I sort of use film as a tool for social acceptance because I think the focus um, on changing laws, but I feel like changing laws one aspect because sometimes you can change laws in a country about anything, about um, or discrimination against LGBT people. But then if you don't have, if society has not, hasn't been any social change in terms of the way people think and the way views, I think that the message get lost in all of it. So I've settled into using film as a method of bringing about change to sort of stories when I stories of lesbian, bisexual, and queer women in Nigeria. And what would be, or, I don't want to say what we should be doing. I don't think that I should be telling what to do, but I think that people need to be comfortable enough to decide whatever works for them and try to use that as a tool in wherever in this film.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. Yes, policies are good, laws are good, but the truth is they are not enough. It's one thing to have policies, but then it's another thing to ensure that these policies are actually implemented, and then it actually translates into behavioral change, as you mentioned. In terms of our society, is society actually changing the way they think about certain things? Are they changing the way they look at certain things? Are they being orientated on how they address some of the gender issues that we're currently facing? Because it's not enough for you to just put in laws and put in policies, but then it has to be backed up with action. So thank you so much, Pamela, for sharing. And yes, Vincent finally joined us. Hi, Vincent. Vincent, are you there?
He says he can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear. Uh,
Yes, I saw that in the chat.
can Vincent? Can you hear? Can you hear us now? Um, I don't know. I think Vincent, can you hear us now? Can you hear me? What network today is okay. I don't know. Vincent, can you hear me? You can't hear me. Why? Chisom, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? So that I know is it
Okay.
everybody?
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
I can actually hear you.
wow. So Vincent, what's going on? I think maybe you have to check from your end. You probably have to check from your end, but while we're trying to sort that out with you, I think I'll just go back to Chisom, so and we'll continue the conversation. Hopefully, we'll be able to sort that out, Vincent. So please let us know if you can't still hear us. Can you just drop it in the chat box that you can't still hear us, just so that we know. So you can check your audio, check your or maybe your earpiece if you're using one, something. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to Chisom. Yeah, so Chisom, you mentioned earlier that you're doing amazing work with young people at the grassroots, underserved communities, and you're looking at a variety of issues from period poverty to child marriage to sexual harassment. And so I just wanted to talk about in terms of when it comes to behavioral change, right? When you're trying to get um, people, especially at the grassroots level, when you're trying to get them to change their perceptions or change their orientation about a particular thing or about a particular issue. What are some of the challenges that you face in trying to make that happen? And what would you say have been some of the things that you have done that has worked for you that you would want to share with us, hopefully for others to also pick from?
Okay, so in answering your question, I would say that the challenges are still that there are behavioral differences, societal differences, um, privilege differences, if there's if for lack of a better word, um, educational differences. Just having to communicate with them in the language that they would understand, in the language that would be beneficial to them. Because we do the work that we do because we want growth, we want development, but oftentimes when you even come to these communities, for instance, using a community outreach as a unit of analysis, um, you're not just going to come in and probably distribute sanitary care kits. You have to come in with few additionals, that would sort of prepare their mind to what it is they're coming to receive. For starters, um, some people come for this community outreaches just because they want to have access to, oh, they're just like, oh, is there going to be food on that day? So some people are just there because they're going to get party packs because they're probably going to eat rice and they haven't had rice in forever, and that's like the only reason why they are there, and so it sort of feels like you're luring them into understanding what it is you're trying to educate them on because of the food, and that shows that there's just like a canker worm of so many things that still needs to be addressed. Hence why like conversations still needs to keep happening, especially around them. Like when using period poverty again, trying to explain to them how it's important that they care for their self and just care for their basic needs. To some of them it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why they should spend that amount of money on sanitary pads that they're going to use once and have to dispose, and they have to consistently do that over and over again. And so in trying to face those challenges, what I usually do and what my team usually do is, in as much as we're looking at it from our standpoint and the need for growth and development, especially for them, we oftentimes try to relate to them like we are one of them, because I mean you're not able to get into them until you're part of them, and not just because you want to get into them and have access to them and do what you want to do, but just so that you know the doors to open appropriately. You know how to open those doors appropriately. You know the language to use, and things like that. You know how to be patient enough, when to be quick enough in addressing certain things. And I'll give you a clear example. I mentioned, I think it was at a I mentioned earlier, and I'll just give you a clear example of how we had distributed the sanitary care kits to a particular family, and the so usually what's in our care kits are sanitary pads, deodorants, bathing soaps, detergents, just basic things to care for yourself, and one of the girls reported back to us that she had been um, beaten, she had been abused by her dad. She was beaten because the man just couldn't fathom why she was using deodorants. Like, and it came from different points of view that, oh, even if you were given, why didn't you sell it? Do you know how much that is? Do you know what we could use the money to do? Or are you doing it to attract boys to you? And all of that. And when I came back to the community, so I was I was hot, and I was really mad at the situation. But what that taught me was that as much as we're reaching out to them, are we causing more good or more harm to them? And so that made my team and I sit down back to the table to say, oh, you know what? As much as we're educating them on these things, we're going to educate them. That shows that we actually have more work to do. So for me, in answering those questions, there are loads and loads of differences, right? But to to get to them is to constantly putting yourself in their shoes, is to
Just
constant. So yes, just putting ourselves in those situations and trying to see as much as possible how often we can open the door, we can relate to them and open the doors that needs to be addressed, so that we're able to
I
shut
can't seem
those
to hear
doors and they
anybody
never have to
again.
come in there. Okay, so Elizabeth, while we're waiting for you to fix your network, I just really wanted to address something as well before we leave. Um, like the name of this panel is She Called Me Woman, the War Over Gender. Quite frankly, I personally feel like we need to move past the we need to move past the ideology that we constantly have to war against each other, because whether we like it or not, especially like in this world, like I don't know that we would get to the point where we only have women in the world or we only have men in the world. Um, I feel like we need to consistently keep trying as much as possible to have conversations between each other, to keep harnessing these things, because all the solutions we're trying to prefer, from sexual harassment to rape to um, domestic violence and all of these things in particular, we're not able to these things are not able to come to light if the boys are not educated enough to know that this is not right to do, this is not acceptable to do. And so I'm looking forward to like us consistently working together in harnessing um preferable solutions in ensuring that we are constantly reducing the rate of how many times we say, oh, XYZ amount of times was victimized, was abused in the workplace, in schools, in the communities, in families, in churches, amongst other places. So
Yes, I am
Elizabeth, are
back.
you
I
back?
can hear
Can you hear
you.
us?
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yes,
great.
please.
Please
Thanks,
go
Chisom. I
ahead and
think I lost you at
continue.
a point, but I was part of the what you were talking about before I think I left because I couldn't hear anybody anymore. So thank you so much, Chisom, for sharing that with us. And it's just important for us to always apply the principle of do no harm, um, especially when we're trying to carry out activities, programs, either it's virtual, physical, either as creatives, as activists, as advocates. We always have to ensure that whatever we are doing in trying to solve some of these issues actually does no harm to the beneficiary or to the participant. So thank you so much, Chisom, for sharing that. And yes, talking about engaging the males. When you talk about the war over gender, it seems like what people think we're talking about the war with men. When you talk about females advocating for an issue that is affecting them, whether it's child marriage, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's um, sexual harassment, the men feel sort of attacked, like we are trying to, like say, hold them accountable or say they are responsible for some of these things that are happening. You know, even though yes, most times they are a large percentage are men in terms of as perpetrators, but just to further emphasize what Chisholm said, that it's not really a war between males and females, right? It's a war over the gender stereotypes that the society has over time, put together to say this is how women should behave, this is how women should act. Women must always be at the mercy of men, right? For a woman to get anything, she has to sleep with a man to be able to get it. So we are not saying that we are fighting over anybody or with anybody. We are simply saying that we want women to be women. We are saying that we want women to own their spaces. We are saying women should be given those spaces free and fair, right? If they deserve it, then they should get it. That's basically what we are saying. So we have just 6 minutes left. To our participants who have joined us in this panel session, we're talking about the topic "She Called Me Woman: The War Over Gender." And with us, we have Chisom, we have Yaidu, and we have Pamela. We also have Vincent, but unfortunately, Vincent, I don't know, is having issues with his network. And so we've not been able to have him also talk on this panel session. But please, if you have any question for our panelists, feel free to drop them in the question box as we round up this session in the next 6 minutes. So I'm just going to ask this general question to all our panelists as we wrap up. And the question simply is this: if there was one thing that you could change, if there was one thing that you would want to see happen when it comes to the war over gender, what is that one thing that you want to see happen? And what will you do towards it? So you tell us what that one thing is that you're so passionate about that you actually want to see a change happen when it comes to this war we're fighting over gender, and then what do you see yourself doing about it? So I'll start with Yeah, I do. And then we'll move to Chisom and then we'll move to Pamela.
I like to see more women taking up space. That's so important to me. I want to see women taking up space in all kinds of industries. I also really, really want to see sexual liberation. Um, but we spent so many years being shamed for sexual expressions and all of that. So yeah, I'd really like to see more women taking up space. And as usual, my solution is storytelling. Um, I plan to tell the stories in a way that women can see themselves represented, and come to the understanding that they can actually take up this space. Because as it's probably not a war against men, as you said, but well, nobody's going to give us this space, right? Nobody's going to hand it to us, so we're going to have to take it.
Mm. Thank you. So let's move to Chisom and then we'll move to Pamela.
Okay. Um, Personally, I would love to see access to more opportunities. When I mean opportunities, I mean from education to um, freedom, to make decisions as regards child marriage, as regards, you know, access to education and all of these things. I'd love to see that happen, especially for younger girls, because like, it blows my mind to know that these girls, there are tons of them who are very energetic, who are very, creative, who have so much within them and in them, and they're just not able to, because they do not have access to, they do not have the privilege to, And I'm just looking forward to a time where, you know, it's okay, like, it's normal to just go to school, it's normal to have quality education, it's normal to have basic things to care for yourself. It's normal to make decisions. It's normal to say, I'm not ready to get married yet. Like, you're getting married not because you want to be dependent on other people and use that as and use your husband or your marriage as a means of taking care of yourself and your family and your extended family, but because you truly want to. And I'm just looking forward to when more voices, more powerful voices with their creativity, with the skills, with the power, the zeal, the voices, and their experiences. Because oftentimes we forget how much experiences shape us to become who we are, sort of. So with all of those things, they're just like thriving more. I'm looking forward to that time, and I'm working towards making that happen.
Yes, voices. We need women and girls to have access to opportunities. These are things that we definitely want to see happen. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we'll take Pamela and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think one of the things, or rather, the main thing that I would really like to see is, doesn't really go too far from what the have said, but I would like to see more women giving opportunities to other women. Um, you know, I was having a conversation the other day with a very good friend of mine, and we were talking about cinematographers, and I was particularly looking for female cinematographers in the Nigerian film industry. And I was lamenting about how, there aren't that many, cinematographers that are female and that are Nigerian doing work in Nigeria. And so, and so he asked me, he said, so what are you doing about it? And that really got me thinking. I mean, even before he asked that question, I've I'm someone who is already who is already providing opportunities for female filmmakers in Nigeria to sort of gain experience, to elevate their work, in filmmaking as a whole. Of Ife, most of the department heads were women, and it was carefully chosen, or I carefully chose them because I realized that if women don't make it a point to elevate other women and to give other women opportunities, then we may never get to that point where we will be able to take up space. Because you can't take up space with nothing to offer. So I would really like to see I'd like to see us get to a point where more women believe in other women, and not just pay lip service to supporting women, but actually giving opportunities and putting women in places of power. So that's really what I would like to see.
Pamela. I mean, literally, it's been an enlightening conversation, and it's really been a thought-provoking conversation and a very insightful conversation. And some of the things that really stood out today is the fact that, one, we need to tell the stories of women, particularly the issues that they are facing. We need to put their stories out there. Another thing that has really stood out today is the fact that we need more women in spaces to make this needed change happen, but not just stopping there, but these women also ensuring that they create safe spaces for other women to also come join them. And as I said, sometimes things don't come to you. You have to go get them. And so we need to begin to claim these spaces. We need to begin to own these spaces. And we need to be men to join us into these spaces. Also, it's important that we educate and orientate men and also work with them in trying to, promote positive gender norms, and begin to break all these gender stereotypes and biases that are currently in existence. It's also important, as Chiso mentioned, to provide access to more opportunities for young girls, particularly so that they can strive to become women, that would own some of these spaces and will speak up for other girls and other women. And it's important that we all work together as a collective, use our voices to begin to change this narrative. But one interesting thing I want to say that really stood out today was the power of creatives. I kept hearing about movies, I kept hearing about films. Chisom talked about our film titled R. Pamela also mentioned, talked about the movie Affair, and I'm sure even EI also mentioned a movie as well. And so it just goes to show that, creatives are beginning to use their platforms and their mediums to begin to shape some of these narratives. And from movies to poetry to writings. I was really looking forward to Vincent sharing with us how writing has been a medium he has used to talk about some of these issues. Writing, music are ways in which we can begin to start these conversations and drive from these conversations. So once again, I want to say a big thank you to all our panelists for joining us today, to also our participants who have joined us today. We are extremely grateful, although we didn't get any questions from participants, but we hope that it was a delightful session for you and you were able to pick one or two things. So as women, let us continue to support each other. Let's continue to lift ourselves up. Let's continue to own spaces, and let's continue to change the narrative. So once again, I say thank you to everybody for joining this panel session. Thank you to the Diversity Summit 2020 and all the organizers. She called me woman. The war over gender is not over yet. We'll continue fighting, but we believe and we are certain that definitely one day we are going to win this war. So thank you so much, Chisom. Thank you so much, Pamela. Before we leave, final words from Chisom and Pamela. So we'll start with Chisom, then Pamela.
Final words, final words, final words. I cannot I cannot underestimate or overestimate. I'm trying to find the English noun to use, the power of one. It is so important. Your voice matters. Your voice counts. Everything you're doing matters. It doesn't matter if you're on a panel, if you're doing it in a local community, just keep utilizing that voice, because it transcends to like over 1 million people. You don't give what you don't have. So as you're doing this to somebody else, the other person is speaking it and taking it, and it will work for that person that would talk to another person and another person and another person, and the cycle just keeps going on and on and on and on. And so please, no matter what it is, do not give up on using your voice. It's not too small, it's not too big, it's not too husky. Like, it's perfect for everything that you are doing to actualize the goals that we're looking to attain.
Thank you, Chisom. And Pamela, final words?
Yeah, my final words would just be, continue to shine, 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 shine. Every opportunity you get, continue to put your best foot forward. The world is watching. You just never know. Everything can change for you in a moment. And I would also like to say, let's just continue to elevate ourselves, to give each other opportunities, and to actually put in the work whenever we are called upon. So that's really those are my 2 cents.
Much, Pamela. Thank you so much, Chisom. Thank you to Uyai that is not currently here. Vincent, unfortunately, who couldn't join us. But I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been an amazing panel session. And thank you, Ogechi. We are glad that you enjoyed the session. And she says big ups to everybody. So thank you so much. And I wish everybody to have an amazing day ahead. Thank you.